I was so aggressive, really aggressive driving, and I spun the car out at 250 miles an hour. And it went around 8 times. I just crossed my arms, cut the motor off, and let it go because there's nothing you can really do.
Well, I'd like to welcome everyone to the first episode of My Mate's Faster. It's a few years in the making here. I've always wanted to gather the thoughts of land speed racers from around the world. They're such a great bunch of people, and they've achieved some amazing goals and speeds over the years. As our land speed racer community gets a bit older and we lose some of our heroes, I thought it's important in some medium to try and gather the thoughts and the stories of land speed racers. What makes them tick, what makes them go back and chase those big speeds. Some of us get beat up year after year on the salt, and it's a hard endeavor. What makes us push ourselves to chase those big speeds and chase the fastest in history. But my first guest today, he's a good friend of mine, and I thank him now in advance for agreeing to this. He has been 325 miles an hour in a diesel streamliner, and as a small budget team, he did knock off some of the big guys along the way. He's also 6 times world outboard speedboat champion. So he has a definite connection with speed and going fast. I'd like to welcome my good friend to My Mate's Faster, Ro Yale. Well, here he is, our friend from the US, Ro Yale. Welcome, mate, to episode 1 of My Mate's Faster.
Hey, thanks. Good to be here.
It's good to see you. And look, we were going to start these podcasts off with how fast have you been, Ro?
My fastest average for a mile so far has been 325 mile 0.021 miles per hour.
To non-land speed racing people, those decimal places, they really matter, don't they?
Yeah, they do because they can mean the difference between a record or not a record.
Yeah. Can you tell me about that run, mate? What you remember about that 325 run? I'm sure I know my fastest run ever sticks in my head a little bit. Is there anything that sort of stands out for you on that run, or you want to play that run
Yeah,
back?
it was the first time I'd driven this vehicle, so I really didn't know what to expect. And the start of the thing was pretty easy and a little tire spin at first. And I know we had traction control, but I still pedaled it out of instinct anyway. I told myself beforehand I was going to hold it to the floor, but instinct took over and I pedaled it. But anyway, I was going through and, the car felt smooth and somewhere around the 2 or 3 mile, I felt it drifting a little from one side to the other, but it was manageable. You could bring it back and stuff. And mile 2, I was running 299 miles an hour, and so about the 3 and 3/4 mile, I started getting steam out of the front of the car where the water tank is for that streamliner, and I'm like, uh-oh, we got a problem. So I let off and coasted through the 4 mile and still averaged that 325. But when I got out of the car, I'm used to driving roadsters. I've driven a lot of different roadsters, rear engine, modified, street roadsters. But when I got out of this car, I didn't know if I'd gone 100 miles an hour or what. I didn't have that sensation of the air crossing my face like I did in the roadsters before. And so I was asking people, how fast did I go? How fast did I go? And nobody had the right number. I heard all kinds of numbers thrown out there, but then I was like, oh, we got to get it back to the impound and get it fixed and to back up the record. And then we saw we hurt the engine so bad we couldn't back it up. But it sticks in my mind. When I was told how fast it went, I'm like, okay, I know I can't back the record up, but at least I get my unlimited license, which I've been trying to get for so long. It's been probably 10 years I've been trying to run over 300, and that's the first time. So
I guess compared to all the roadsters you've run, the streamline is pretty slippery, hey? So it got through the air a lot easier than those cars.
yeah, it was completely different. I mean, the roadsters, you have to drive the shit out of them, and the streamliner just, I mean, you just kind of ease it one way or the other or something. It was a little more complicated because it's a 7-speed transmission versus the 4 speeds I've driven before. But to change gears, all I had to do is push a button, which
Yeah,
is
but
simple.
you've only got 5 fingers, mate. So once you got past 5, you're in trouble.
I couldn't count. I had to count my toes.
Yeah, you know what we do on the little bikes. We get the top gear and we always check it. Because
Yeah,
I think every land speed race has probably gone through the mile thinking they've set a record, but they weren't in top gear.
I count the gears as I go through them in my
Yeah,
head, so I don't have to look. We had a computer screen I could have looked at, but I really didn't want to take my eyes off the track.
yeah,
I keep a focal point on the floating mountain, and that's what I look at the whole time. And everything else is peripheral vision stuff and all. I'm not going to look down at that computer, and
yeah,
because it takes my eyes off the screen. And when you're moving that fast, a lot can happen in a half a second or
yeah.
something.
Yeah, sure, mate. Now, if we go back to the beginning, Ro, you're obviously. I did do an intro earlier. You ran an alcohol funny car, NHRA. You knocked a few of the big boys off. You ran speedboats, outboard speedboats for a number of years. What made you? How'd you get to the salt? Like, how'd you get from that endeavour to the
Well,
salt?
I did the boats. I raced boats for about 20 years and won like 6 world championships with them. And it really came to a point that it was not going to get any bigger. And I was just kind of frustrated and just kind of said, no, I don't want to do it anymore. And this neighbor moved in next to my shop. He rented a shop next to me, and him and his daughter built a hot rod. We got to be friends. In a couple of years' time, he says, hey, I've been thinking about going to Bonneville. You want to go? And I said, sure. And this was in 2000. And so we went, we come back, and he says, well, I'm going to build a car. And I'm like thinking, sure you are. Well, he was a lot smarter than I thought he was. And he really was he's brilliant with aerodynamics. But he built a car so different than anybody else's car out there in that class. I'm like, does he really know what he's doing? And we go out there and we start knocking records down, not by a few miles an hour, by 10, 20, 30 miles an hour. So I drove for them several years, set, I don't know, 12, 13 records with that car. And then they kind of got burnt out and quit racing. And another team called and says, hey, we heard you're not racing. You want to go hang out with us? We got an extra hotel room. I'm like, yeah, I don't know. Let me think about it. And they called me the next night and said, well, will you drive one of our cars? And I'm like, hell yeah, I'll be there. And so I ended up driving their street roadster and setting the world's fastest street roadster record at 260 miles an hour. And their rear engine modified roadster, I set a world record in at 281 miles an hour. So, and then you drove for them probably 5 years. And then David Pilgrim and Carl Stubbs asked me, said, hey, would you drive our new streamliner? And I'm like, of course I will. That's like my dream job. And these guys, all the teams I've been with have been excellent guys to work with. And it's just really rewarding when you're with a team that everybody gets along, everybody works together. And, it's a team effort. It's not one person. I'm a little part of that team.
Yeah, you got the you signed the autographs, mate, and the rest of the team get dirty hands. Is that right?
Yeah. Well, I get dirty hands too.
Do you remember the first time? I'm assuming Bonneville was the first salt flats you went to. Do you remember the first
Yeah.
time you actually saw it? You drove onto it. You turned off the road
Oh,
there.
it was amazing. I couldn't believe it. I grew up in North Carolina, the mountains of North Carolina, and we had snow. Well, you're walking around on that salt, and it's 95 degrees Fahrenheit out there, and you're like, wait, it's supposed to be cold. Oh yeah, this isn't snow. This is salt. It was really strange. I still got a little vial of salt that I got the first time I was there, and I've kept with all my trophies and stuff like that ever since. And I mean, it meant a lot to me because I'd grown up in school going in the library and looking at magazines talking about the Bonneville salt flats. And I mean, I knew what it was, but I really had no idea how to get to it and how to be a part of it. And I just kind of stumbled into it, I guess you'd say, more than anything.
It's a special place, isn't it? I remember the first time my dad and my little brother and I went to Bonneville, and just overcome by the sheer size of it and the beauty. You know,
Uh,
where do I go? Where do we go? You know, it's
yeah,
just
it's
overload. You
huge.
know, yeah,
It's huge. Your perspective, your depth perception, all kind of gets off and all because you're out there and you can't tell how far anything. The little mountain I look at the end of the course, it looks like it's 10 miles away. It's 40 miles away.
yeah,
You
yeah.
would think it's just right over there, and it's a long ways away. So,
Now
and
look,
you can actually see the curvature of the Earth too.
well, I actually raised that point in a video recently, and some of the scientists out there proved me wrong and said you can't actually see the curvature of the Earth. It's because our eyes aren't square. That gives. So there's a lesson.
Sure, they can go on believing that, but
Yeah,
I
yeah.
believe what I want to
Yeah,
believe.
yeah, me too. Hey, look, I know you've been to Australian Salt, and you saw the Bonneville Salt for the first time. What about Lake Gardner, mate? I know you would have come over the hill there, and
My Lake Gardner is like a dream. I remember when I pulled up with you last year onto the salt, and they were out there dragging the track with the tractors, and I asked you, what are they doing? He says, they're smoothing it out. And I thought, that's smoother than any salt I've ever seen already. What do you need to? The pits are smoother than what I've been running on. So I was amazed. And then with you, I helped pick up after the event, helped pick up flags and stuff. And we started at the 9 mile. And I remember looking past the 9 mile, and it was as smooth and beautiful white as I would give anything to run out there.
yeah.
It's an amazing place.
So that does bring me to this year. I know you're coming over, and I know
Yeah,
it's going to be probably not quite. You're not going to you're going to be with a couple of roadsters with the garage shop guys.
right.
How's the step down, mate, from being from the big 50cc to the roadsters? How are you going to handle the step down to deal with that? You know.
You know, I've been around a lot of different kinds of racing, and I know what people need. I know how to lend a hand and not get in the way, and I know how to be a part of it. I know when to walk off. So, it'll work just fine. I have no worries whatsoever. And if I'm really lucky, maybe I'll get to drive somebody's car.
Yeah, well, that'd be nice. I'm sure if there's any Australians out there that want a good driver, you're the guy to go to. I was a little bit tongue in
Lots of
cheek,
experience.
there with the garage shop guys. So I'm sure they'll do fine over here. You've been
Yeah.
to Bonneville how many times, mate? You reckon?
25 times.
Oh, there you go.
25 years. I've been sometimes twice a year, but 25 years I've been going.
Okay, and can you tell me about we've done the fastest run. What about the most memorable run? Like I know there's been runs where they're not the fastest, but for some reason they stick out in my head for some reason.
There's several, but one that comes to my mind really offhand is when I was driving Jim Jarrett's street roadster for the Hot Rod Hoodlums. And it's a pro charged, I think a 350 cubic inch motor. And I was so aggressive, really aggressive driving. And I spun the car out at 250 miles an hour. And it went around 8 times and tore the tonneau cover off, tore the rear deck off, and busted them to pieces, busted the windshield to pieces. Brand new tires. I got one sitting right here that has worn through the second layer of threads on it from spinning around. It went around 8 times, went up on its two wheels twice. I just crossed my arms, cut the motor off, and let it go because there's nothing you can really do. But the safety crew for SCTA found all the pieces to the tonneau cover, the rear deck, and we went to town and bought the 2 packs of fiberglass kits from the hardware store they had, 2 packs of fiberglass kits from the auto parts. That was all there was in town. Every guy on our team got together and was sanding, and by that evening, we had the parts pieced back together. It looked like crap, but the next morning we went out and set the record at 260 miles an hour for a street roadster. So I was super proud of that, and the whole team.
And I know from hanging out from you that Street Roadster record was actually I think you took Chet Thomas's record, who they're a
Yes.
very professional, beautiful car team. You know, like so
Yeah.
probably a nice record to get, and you know, it's a little bit of it's a bucks down team, I guess, having a win there.
Yeah, it was pretty cool, and we had gone to the bar that night where they have all the in what's the out the I can't think of the bar's name, Black and White Bar,
Yeah,
and where they have pictures all over the walls, and there was a picture of Chet's car on the wall that said "World's Fastest Street Roadster," and I went up and asked the bartender, said, "Hey, you have a Sharpie?" And they're like, "Sure." And so I went back there and drew a little arrow and put world's second fastest street roadster. And then a year later, I showed Chet and we laughed about it. And it was all in good fun, you know.
oh yeah, of course. Now look. Just talking about the salt there, and what's the biggest mistake you made? Obviously, too aggressive that day in the roadster and
Yeah.
spun it around. What's the biggest mistake you see rookies or newcomers to the salt make?
You're so anxious. And I used to get butterflies when I get in the car and all, in my belly and all that. But I've learned to practice before I get there. I suit up in the car and strap myself in and go over my run mentally for hours before I ever even go to the salt. And it takes all that away because you're so anxious and stuff. When you're amped up like that, you can make bad decisions. And those are really fast decisions. And you need to be correct on those decisions. I've seen guys spin before the first quarter of the mile, you know, just get all amped up and hit the throttle. And like when I spun that street roaster, Keith Dorton, our engine builder, says, "Ro, here's how you drive that car." I did exactly what he said, and the car performed flawlessly when I listened to what he said, you know.
Yeah, I have to agree with you there. I actually am involved a little bit with the rookies in Australia, and that's one thing that I try to tell them. You know, repetition, repetition, repetition.
Amen.
If you can be in the pits, and if you can make the start line procedure second nature, it does take all those butterflies away and lets you think about the bigger picture. I think you know.
Yeah, you got to think the whole thing through, everything from putting your uniform on, everything to turning the car on, to how they're going to belt you in there, and you just go through every bit of it visually in your mind. And I do a meditation with that stuff too, and it I'm totally comfortable. I'm not nervous at all when I get in the car, and I just think I always taught in drag racing school you make better decisions when you're at calm. You know?
Yeah, sure. Now, what you know, land speed racing, it does beat a lot of us up. You know, we wait all year to go racing. We get
Yeah.
down there, and a $2 part lets you down. You've towed. I know you tow a long way from Texas. I tow a long way from here. What makes you come back, mate? What's the drive to get back there and get that speed?
People ask me, said, "Do I get paid?" I'm like, no. The payment is the achievement, or just the struggle of getting the car ready, the struggle of getting there, the struggle of I enjoy it, and most of all, I think the people. The people are what I enjoy a lot. I realized that when I was drag racing, that the people are what really I enjoy. I enjoy seeing all the guys at the SCTA trailers, Joyce, and the people at the starting line, Doug and Sherry at the trailer, and I enjoy the people, you know.
Yeah, they are. I used to do a bit of sailing, and I used to say if you're on a desert island, you'd want sailors. But I've changed that these days. That if you're stranded on a desert island, I'd like to have land speed races with me because they're a pretty good bunch, you know, and they can fix
They're
anything.
pretty innovative.
Pretty innovative. That's right. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
no doubt.
And you've obviously got a few records in the books still.
I've set 16 records, and I currently hold 8. I thought I had the rear engine roadster, and then my mate from England in the 7707 got
Yeah,
that
Jeff.
record back. Yeah.
Yeah, Jeff's he's a nice guy and always welcoming.
Yeah.
He's another person that's good for the sport. You know, he does a lot of social and he puts in some dollars, doesn't he? He's back and forth all the time to run that car, so
Yeah.
it's a big effort,
He does a lot. Yeah.
mate. What's the goal for 2026? What's Ro Yale up to?
We had the streamliner this summer set up to run 380. That was our guesstimate, on the horsepower and everything. And I really wanted that. I really want a record that high like that. I'd like to get 380, but ultimate, I'd like to go over 400 with it. And I think the car's capable. It's a brand new car, so we got little things we got to work out and stuff. And those guys are definitely on it. They get back to the shop disassembled in a couple of days. Going through everything and trying to redo it. And I've got the skirts for the rear wheels sitting here at my shop. I've been working on them today. So, we're always working.
What does Ro Yale do for it? If you want to give your business a plug, mate, what do you do in Texas?
I have a company called Carbon Fiber Technologies. We do anything carbon fiber. We have the Ferrari race team. We do all their repairs. We repair carbon fiber bicycles. We build some parts for the government and just anything carbon fiber. It has to be carbon fiber. We don't care about the look-alike carbon fiber. We want the real carbon fiber.
So if you need carbon, go see Ro.
There you go.
Mate, what is a guy that's going for 400 mile an hour? What's your daily driver?
I've got a Toyota pickup.
Yeah, there you go.
I love it.
So have I, mate.
It's such a good truck. It's so easy to drive. I can maneuver in tight spaces. It rides like a car, really smooth. It's got all the features on it you want. And actually, it's the first new car I'd ever owned.
Yeah, okay. And what about, I do know you've got some muscle in the garage, so what's that muscle look like?
I've got a 67 Mustang, fastback Mustang GT with a 427 in it, 4-speed on the floor. And I take it out on Sunday and feel the power, I got to feel a little power every now and then.
Yeah, that's a beautiful car, mate. That's probably my father. I know that's my dad's dream car you got there, so we must do a trip to Texas sometime and do some cruising. Look, we've got an aging population in land speed racing. What have we got to do, mate? You've seen the numbers like I have over the years drop away. From I know the salts. I know salt's deteriorating in Bonneville. And that's another thing. We'll leave that alone because there's plenty of professionals can look after. But what have we got to do to get people back to the salt to drive, mate? What have we got to do? The numbers,
I wonder about that with the electric cars and the computerized cars and. I don't know what it takes for drive because I see a lot of automotive racing just getting less and less participants, and I really think media coverage was to make it because like I said when I was growing up, I saw it in Bonneville in magazines in high school and elementary school, so I saw that stuff and I was interested and it took my interest. So more exposure and like people like we talked the other day, I'm talking about people in Salt Lake City, which is 120 miles away, don't even know an event's going on. You got to make this stuff where people see it and stuff, I think, some way. And I don't know how to do it. I'm not a marketing guy
Yeah, I think if we all share even through this sort of interaction, hopefully we get the word out there a bit more, and if all the teams do a little bit of social and stuff, I guess that helps. But yeah, I've been surprised, like we said the other day, that I've been to the service station out of Salt Lake, and they say, "Where are you going?" So I'm going to Bonneville. I've always wanted to go there, but they've never gone.
Yeah.
They haven't gone that final step. So yeah, I don't have the answers either, mate. But I'm just curious when we get people on to think, what do we need to do?
I know for me and you, I mean, we're on Facebook and stuff like that, Instagram and stuff like that. And I try to post a lot of stuff on there, and I know you do as well. And just to strike somebody's interest. You don't know what's going to strike somebody else's interest, but somebody see a motorcycle, say, man, this guy's got a 50cc motorcycle going 105 miles an hour. How can I do that? I've got a 50cc, and you never know.
Yeah, I do think. Where do you position land speed racing in motorsport? To me, it's really the last amateur motorsport. Where I said to someone the other day, my father and I can build a bike and we compete against the best in history. There's not many motorsports where you can step into race the greatest ever.
Yeah, the the motorsports, everything that I grew up liking, NHRA, drag racing, NASCAR, it's all cookie cutter cars. Every three people build all the engines in NASCAR, and it's the bodies are nothing but facsimiles of what kind of looks like that car. And when I grew up, they were those actual cars off the showroom floor,
Yeah.
you know, and modifications from there. But I like innovation, and that's what's so great about Bonneville. It's innovation. I mean, you see everything from absolute junk to the most exotic stuff, engineered stuff out there, and that fascinates me. And I want to see it all. I saw a rubber band powered car out there one time. It had like 1,000 rubber bands, and it probably wouldn't do nothing, but it was cool to see.
Yeah.
Somebody's idea.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of innovation in Bonneville, and I think Bonneville, you get to see a lot more than Australia because, as you know, the Australian trip is a little bit harder to get to, and we don't have the Wendover sitting up the road with the motels and the bars and the casinos, you know, so you've got to be a little bit more prepared. Mate, it's been a pleasure to have you on the first episode of My Mate's Faster. I look forward to catching you up in a few weeks' time, even though you won't be crewing for the mighty 100cc. You'll be hanging with your Yank mates, but that's all right. Well, you can come over to Arthur's tent one night. We'll give you some kangaroo stew, and you should be good to go. Hey, thanks for your time, Ro. Hey, wish you all the best, brother.
All right, JP, I really appreciate you.
See you, mate.
Bye.
See you, buddy. JP here from My Mate's Faster. Thanks a bunch for watching our first episode. I really do appreciate it. Thanks to Ro Yale all the way from Texas. He's a good mate of mine. Look forward to seeing you in a few weeks at Australian Speed Week, mate. If you like the episode, please subscribe below. Plenty more fast people coming, and we'll catch you soon.